Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in for a new video. The Jaguar F Type is probably one of the best sounding cars out there. But is it already a good time to get into one? Or will you still face some steep depreciation? Let's get on with this depreciation analysis. Oh, but wait a second. Before we continue, hit the like button and subscribe, as you will stay tuned for more videos to come. Let's go. Let's start by looking at some of the distribution plots of the most important variables for the Jaguar F Types, meaning the kilometers, the engine type, and also the year distribution. Again, just as last time, we are looking at the German market. This means that the absolute values are not necessarily applicable to your area. The relative movements in prices, however, should be. Let's start on the left-hand side, where we see the kilometer distribution. This means that kilometer is displayed on the x-axis and frequency is displayed on the y-axis. So, for any given kilometer amount, there are y amount of cars for sale. We can already see clearly that the most of the cars have less than 30,000 kilometers, which is indicated by the high bars. After that, there's a strong drop visible. Also, we can see that there are some clear outliers in the market for cars which have more than 100,000 kilometers. Let's continue to the middle, where we have the year distribution for the market. We can clearly see that if we move to the right in the graph, the height of the bars is increasing. This means that there are, relatively speaking, a lot of new cars for sale in the market. We can, for example, see for the bar at 2015 that there are around 90 cars for sale. Similarly, also the 2017 bar is high, showing approximately also 90 cars for sale. Let's move on to the final graph on the right hand side. Here I plotted the distribution for the different engine types in the market. We can see first of all that there are a huge amount of engine types for sale for the F Type. Stay with me, I'm going to count them. We have the 400, the 4-cylinder, the V6, the V6S, the V8S, the R and the SVR. Those are 7 different engine types for one car, which is a lot. We can also clearly see that actually the V6, the V6S and the R are by far the most popular cars, as they have high spikes in the bars, meaning that a lot of cars are for sale with those engine types. Let's start to spice things up a bit and find out how much the Jaguar F Types actually depreciate per year. We're going to have a look at the relationship between year and the prices. On to the next graph. Here we have year on the x-axis and price on the y-axis, and each little blue dot represents a car. First of all, we can see that there's a large variety of prices in the F-Type market. You can already get in an F-Type for around 40,000 euros, but you can also spend an astonishing 140,000 euros on an F-Type. The fact that the prices are so widely spread also makes the regression line which I fitted through it, that is the blue line, a bit useless. So let's clean this up. This is the same graph with year on the x-axis and price on the y-axis. Each dot represents the car, but the dots are colored according to the engine types. Unfortunately, this still doesn't really help us, as there are so many engine types and so many different colors. Let's pull them apart and see if we can find something interesting. And just like that, we have 7 different graphs, where each graph has an own engine type. On the x-axis is still the year, and on the y-axis still the price. If we want to say something meaningful about the depreciation per year though, we need to make sure that our data is nicely spread over the years. Therefore I selected 3 engine types, or actually 4 engine types, to continue the analysis with. These are the V6, V6S, the R and the SVR. I selected those for 2 reasons. First, as I mentioned, they are nicely spread out over the years. And secondly, these are the largest categories for sale in the market, so we can actually say something meaningful about them. We rush now through quite many graphs. For this graph in particular, however, I would like to take a bit more time, as it shows something interesting. So stay with me if you want to find out what it is. We have again on the x-axis the years, price is on the y-axis, and each dot is again a different car. We again colored them, where we have first from top to bottom. We have in red the SVR, in green the R, then in brown the V6S, and in purple we have the V6. Few interesting things we can see. First of all, when we start all the way at the right hand side of the graph, we can see that the distance between the best fit line, meaning the lines you see, is quite large. This is of course natural, as there are different prices for different consumer segments. The more we move actually to the older cars, meaning from 2013, we can see that the space between the lines decreased significantly. So this shows a natural depreciation curve, as the older the car is, the less the price is. We can actually also see basically two types of depreciation going on here. We can see first of all that the V6 and the V6S show a rather similar depreciation line. We can see in fact that in 2013 and 14 you actually could have the choice between a V6 and V6S, as the engine types start to get mingled. Then we can see that the SVR and the R are also rather similar. You can see that the two lines are almost downward sloping in parallel, meaning that the depreciation per year is almost the same for both cars. If we look then to the whole picture, the graph as a whole, we can see clearly that the slope of the depreciation is by far the largest for the SVR and the R. Contrary to that, the V6 and the V6S depreciate less than the R and the SVR, which is of course also something which fits with a normal depreciation curve due to the lower base price of the two cars. Now let's continue and figure out how this picture looks when we start to add kilometers. Do you see that red line? That red line? The red line shows the depreciation per kilometer for the SVR. You're literally burning through cash with that SVR. Every kilometer you're adding, you're just throwing cash outside the window. Like it's nothing. That is insane. The slope is really steep and it definitely stands out from the rest of the engine types. It's really strong downward sloping. Let's actually take a step back and take a look at the graph. We have kilometers on the x-axis and price on the y-axis. If we start to look at this depreciation curve, it is of course natural that the more you drive with the car, the more value you lose. However, it's quite extreme with the SVR and it really stands out from all the other engine types. Interestingly is here, however, that the depreciation curve of the R is for the kilometers more similar to the V6S and not to the SVR. If we go one step back to the previous graph, we saw that the depreciation per year for the R was actually more similar to the SVR than to the V6S. So you can actually add some mileage to your R without losing that much value, relatively speaking then. When we have a look at the V6S, we can see that this is exactly in the middle in terms of depreciation with respect to the V6 and the R. The V6 naturally depreciates the less when you start to add mileage to it. And you can in fact already see some slight bottoming patterns for the V6. Especially between 60 and 80,000 kilometers, you can start to have the choice between the V6, the V6S and the R. Let's continue with the next graph. Okay, I want to sit down for this one. What you see here on the screen is a 3D plot for only the V6 F types, so the V6 and the V6S. You can see that there is on this graph, this axis over here, there's the price, we have the year over here, and then finally we have kilometers over here. The black dots are the cars in the market, and the white ones are the cars for which the machine learning algorithm which I wrote identified that they are either overpriced or underpriced. In any way, there's something special with these cars when you compare them to the other cars. And I in particularly would like to point out one to give you a sense of how this is working. Let's have a look at this point over here. We can see that this is a car from 2014 with a price which is rather similar to other cars, around 45,000 euros. However, when you start to look to the kilometers, you see that it's way above the market. It's all the way here, almost at 100,000 kilometers. So in other words, it means that buying this car is actually not such a smart idea. And it means that you really need to investigate in the market what the prices are for the years and the kilometer combinations you are looking for. Let's also have a quick look at the V8 models. This is again the same 3D plot, but now filled with V8s, meaning the R and the SVR. I would like to take this chance to show a car which is actually priced under the market. As you perhaps already saw from the graph, I'm going to point out this particular car over here. As you can see, it's one of the cheapest cars out there, as it's around 50,000 euros. And this is actually a Jaguar F Type R. When we look to the kilometers, we can also see that it has very little, in fact less than 20,000 kilometers, which is in line with the rest of the market, as we can see from the black dots. Though it is a bit older, as it's from 2014. So this shows how you can use a smart algorithm to actually identify cars which would be a good buy in the market. Let's now conclude and figure out what would be the best F-Type to buy. We look now to a lot of different F-Type configurations, but for which one should you go for? If you're a petrolhead like me, which you probably are when you're looking this video, you really want to go for the SVR. Who doesn't? It's a top model, the fastest model. But when you're looking to the depreciation for both year and kilometers, that's absolutely the worst. While you're driving your SVR, you would literally be just burning cash. If we move to the other end of the spectrum, we have the V6. From a depreciation standpoint, this would be by far the most sensible choice, as both for year and kilometer, the depreciation is the least of all the configurations. However, who really likes the base model when you're spending so much money on a car? I wouldn't, at least. If we move then to the middle segment, we have the V6S and the R. Now these two are competing actually more than I initially would thought. If we start to look to the kilometers, we can see that the depreciation per kilometer is more or less similar for both the R and the V6S. When we start to look to year, we can see, however, that the R is still depreciating more per year than the V6S. Personally, I would therefore be looking to an older R, which already carried most of its depreciation per year. While I would be driving it, I would still be knowing that the depreciation per kilometer would be more or less the same as the V6S. Though, if you don't want to carry the year depreciation, I can strongly recommend going for the V6S. As some actually say that this is the better driving car because the engine is a lot lighter. If you like this video, please subscribe, hit that like button and comment down below what car you would like to see analyzed next time.